In this video, we're going to look at the initial startup of Music Creator 6 Touch and some of the setup options and settings. When we first load Music Creator, we are presented with the Quick Start dialog. From here, we can choose to open a project, create a new one, or access help, either via the video tutorials or using the Getting Started drop-down to access the online help. You will need an active internet connection though. If you don't want to see this at every startup, just uncheck that option at the bottom. You can always turn it back on again if you change your mind, and that's found in the Help menu. We're going to select the Create a New Project option. We'll leave the template as default, type in a name and location, and select OK. We'll look at templates and file location later. Now here we have the initial view. We'll be taking a closer look at this later, but for now we need to set up probably the most important element of any audio program, and that's the audio interface. Without one, or if it's incorrectly set up, we'll either experience problems or at worst not hear anything at all. You may have a professional audio interface attached to your system, or it might just be the onboard sound device. Although the results are usually much better with the dedicated interface, onboard sound is perfectly capable of getting decent results to start with, and setup is identical. If you do only have onboard sound available, you may find a utility called ASIO for All will help to get better results. Just search online for that. Press P to open Preferences, or select the option from the Edit menu. If it isn't already selected, click on the Devices tab under the Audio section. Here we have a choice of which driver mode to use. The two that we are interested in are ASIO and WDM. Which one you use will depend on your audio device. Most devices work better in one mode than the other, so try them both and see which one works for you. Setup for both is very similar. We'll look at ASIO mode, and I'll mention the differences for WDM as we go along. The playback and recording devices are probably already preset correctly, but if you have more than one device, make sure that the correct one is selected. In ASIO mode, the next button opens the ASIO panel. This will open the ASIO control panel for your device and allow adjustment of the buffer size. Without getting into a complex explanation, the smaller the buffer, the less latency there is. Latency is the time it takes for a system to receive input, process it and output it again. This will result in a delay, which if it is small enough is barely noticeable. If it's large, however, it can be very noticeable and off-putting when trying to work in real time with audio, such as playing and processing guitar. The obvious thing to do then is to set the buffer figure as small as possible. But as always, there is a trade-off. If the figure is too small, the system can't process data quick enough and it will glitch, either as pops and clicks or at worst stop audio processing altogether. That's a state known as a dropout. Find a compromise by starting with a modest figure, and if there are problems, increase it. If not, decrease it and repeat the process again until the system is glitch-free. If you use WDM mode, initially the wave profiler will run to test the timing of your hardware. Allow these tests to run. Once in WDM mode, the wave profiler now replaces the ASIO panel button and can be started manually by clicking on it. Latency is now set directly as a delay time using the latency fader, but the trade-off between fast speed and stability still holds. Now let's take a brief look at some of the advanced settings. If this tab isn't visible, click on the Advanced button at the bottom. On this tab, there are options for sharing the audio driver, whether multiple processors are used if available, and the bit depth for communicating with the driver. Notice that your hardware must support the figure set here, and generally, the higher the better. The sample rate set here is the sample resolution that Music Creator will use for audio within the project. 44.1 is the CD standard, and 48 the DVD standard, but regardless of the figure set here, the final output will always be mixed down at 44.1. There are also buttons here for access to the configuration files. Now let's move on to MIDI setup.